People and Politics.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of People and Politics podcast. My name is Paul O'Kane. I'm a member of the Scottish Parliament for West Scotland, and this podcast is all about people in our communities and some unique stories and the people who make our communities work. And I want to share those stories because I know there'll be lots of listeners out there who want to hear them as well. Now, if you're into football and you pay attention to things other than just what's going on in the Scottish Premiership, you might know that Johnstone Burgh FC created a piece of history by winning the Scottish Junior Cup, and they did that on the 1st of June of 2025, beating Trinent FC 4-2 on penalties. And if you're from Johnstone, you'll certainly know all about this because the celebrations around the town and the wider community have been huge. And if you don't know about it, I don't know what you've been doing for the last few weeks. It's the first time the club has won the trophy since 1968, and I'm delighted to be joined on the podcast today by club co-owner Jack Henderson and team manager Murdo MacKinnon, and also Jacqueline MacLauchlan, the club secretary, and I think she describes herself as Jack of all trades, doing lots of work with the community club as well. And we're going to talk more about that achievement and really what the club means to the community and what it's doing in the community and what fans can expect next. So thanks everyone for coming in. I know you're all busy, so it's really good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, excellent. Great. And I suppose I'm just going to kick off. I think the first question really is, have you got tired of talking about winning yet?
From my perspective, no. So it was my first ever football game was the 2000 final. So to actually win it 25 years later was pretty cool. So I think everyone who's met me since that day has had the story, and so even on the flight over here they had the story as well. So yeah, I'm definitely not bored talking about it, not yet.
Excellent. And Jack, obviously you're a co-owner, so
Yep.
you've got quite an interesting history and story of how you came to have that role.
Yeah. So really my granddad, so he won the original supporters bus back in the, I don't know if it's the 50s or 60s, so I still have the old books where it's got the name of every supporter who's been on the bus and how much they've paid. The club, there'd been a lot of work in the background to turn the club around before kind of I got involved, but it wasn't really it wasn't in a position where it could be. There'd been quite a long period of mismanagement. They didn't own the stadium. The rents were increasing. So my papa, who's sadly no longer with us, he asked me to get involved in the club and support from a financial perspective, and I was lucky enough that outside business had meant that I could. So got involved, and really it's been about kind of developing the club from there and how can we do it in the most sustainable manner possible. And that's kind of,
So it's brought us to this moment, this big moment in terms of achievement.
Yeah, I mean, definitely didn't think we'd get where we got to this quick. I think a lot of credit goes to Murdo, kind of since he come in as manager. We ended up getting promoted last season, and then this season as well has been absolutely fantastic. But there's a long history and a lot of work in the background. But pleasantly surprised about where we've ended up. I didn't think this season we would win the Junior Cup. Always wanted to have that in the background, but absolutely chuffed that it actually happened. So
fantastic. And Murdo, obviously a massive achievement from your point of view. Was it never in doubt, or?
It's always in doubt to a certain extent. There's a lot of good teams at this level, and it's a major competition. And it's been at the pinnacle or level of the game for a long time. So it's certainly a competition and a trophy that everybody working at our level we want to win. And we find ourselves very fortunate to win it this year. It's been a wonderful achievement. It's been great for the town, for the community, for the club, for the volunteers, the people around about the club. See what it means to them it's been fantastic. It's been absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, and I suppose from players and the management's point of view, just sort of that level of achievement in terms of your career, in terms of your sport, that must mean so much to them. Because you'll be watching their incremental gains, I suppose, week to week, but actually, big achievement personally for them.
Absolutely. Any player that, as I say, plays at our level would want to win the Junior Cup, and they win leagues and different things. But to a certain extent, you can kind of see that coming, for a period of time, and to feel the celebrations and the probably relief to a certain extent at the end of the final whistle.
Yeah, of course. It was a bit of a nail biter in the end.
It was. On that day, and the celebrations that followed was really really memorable.
Yeah, and just watching the whole town come out, both I think before we got to final day, the build up, but also then afterwards. I mean, that was amazing. I mean, Jacqueline, were you in Houston Square? Were you at the
Yep.
How was that?
No, it was absolutely amazing. Seeing all the kids from the community clubs running about the square, celebrating, being there with the team, seeing the trophy, it was just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. And did people kind of expect that reaction? Because I think it was building, wasn't it, incrementally? And then,
I had to get saved by Murdo. I was swarmed by about 300 children.
Oh wow!
And I didn't want to kind of deprive anyone the right of having a picture with the trophy. So I had to. A few people had to come and get me back on the bus.
Yeah.
No, I didn't expect it to be that many people in the square. It was amazing, and especially for the little ones, like their reactions and how the pure elation. It was awesome.
Totally.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And I think for kids, something like that sticks in the mind for such a long time, and it is such an achievement, and hopefully inspires them as well in terms of the sport they're playing, whatever level they're playing at. To want to continue that, to want to get involved even more. So, I mean, that's I guess what you're all hoping for is that sort of real passion. Yeah,
for sure. Like sport is an amazing outlet for children. I think it provides them like discipline, something to do, and a safe environment for their kind of their development. So to see that many kids involved, and obviously it's credit to like Jackie and the guys, because I'm not really too involved in the community club, but to see like the growth even in the last few seasons is actually been amazing, and that obviously translated into the number of kids that were there in the square, because it was ridiculous, the numbers. So crazy. Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah.
And we've been doing a bit of a tour with the trophy. It's here with us, which is pretty cool, and it was in the Scottish Parliament. You guys were able to come through, which was really nice, and meet a huge number of different MSPs, cross-party, cross-country, loads of people in. Want to share in the success and the celebration. A few, I think, who wanted to meet some of the players. Certain Mr. Lafferty possibly was a bit of an distraction for some folk. But it was a great day, and you've been doing more than that. You've been in all the schools, you've been in the youth clubs, as you say, local businesses. It's been really, really heartening to see. So how has that been? Who's been kind of out? You've been out and about a bit, Murdo, have you?
Yeah, so a lot of the players have been involved in that as well. You mentioned Kyle, Derek Esplin, the captain, and Craig Menzies, Luke Scullion have been big players in that, but there's a lot of people been out and run about the community. As you mentioned, the schools have done. I think the Cup's done a tour of every primary school in the town, and the nurseries, care homes, different places like that, as well as local businesses and stuff like that. So it's been brilliant. In my time in the game, I don't think I've seen a club celebrate it in that way. With the community, making sure that everybody gets to see it and join in with the celebration. And I think the club have had so many requests, from people to come and visit. And when you do go, you do see what it means, particularly the children, and run about the schools and stuff like that. They welcome the cup, and the players, and the staff I've had has been phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal.
No, that's great. And just great from our perspective to be able to watch some of that on social media. And again, a really good social media team who are putting that out there, so it's getting far and wide. People are seeing that passion and that determination. Jack, it's interesting kind of what you were saying about when you joined the club, and kind of perhaps this wasn't in your expectations so soon. But obviously, you've been quite determined to make those gains, to make those improvements. So, what's where do we go from here, I suppose, to some extent?
So for me it was kind of there was a few stages initially in terms of like what I wanted to execute and what I wanted to plan, and the first thing really was to essentially save the club. So like the club was in a position where, unless you're involved quite high level at the committee, you would never have understood the finances. So the old landlord was increasing the rents drastically. he charged us well over the odds to acquire the stadium. So that was the first thing we wanted to do from a sustainability standpoint, was make sure that the stadium was actually owned by the club. Grow the community aspect of it. So we signed a lease of the stadium over to the community club for 99 years. So, I'll be long gone and buried by the time that kind of piece of infrastructure goes back into private hands. So then it was about, it's a big team with a historic big support that was kind of not running in the right manner. And you have so many guys who have, like Brian, for example, and the guys on the committee and Jackie, who they, in the background with very limited resources, saved the club. So without what these guys had done, the club would not have been in a position where we could have come in and put a little bit of capital in and kind of try to take to the next level. But for myself, it's all about sustainability and rising through the league. So, this season is about obtaining our SFA licence so we can get promoted up into the lowland leagues, with the long-term goal being obviously into the SPFL proper. But we want to do that in a sustainable manner. So it's not just a case of, how much money can we throw at it? And that's the complete opposite of what we want to do. So we recognise that, the product on the pitch is a big part of what drives the attendance. And, the product on the pitch from the first team and the guys that Murdo puts out, that drives people joining the community club, children. It's like a funnel. Everything kind of funnels into everything. So kind of improving that and continuing to improve what happens on the pitch, improving the infrastructure. We want to do a piece at the moment where something that I'm very passionate about is fan ownership. Like, this was never an ego play for me. I did refused interviews for the first 2 years that I was involved in the club. So something that I want to do is kind of, over a period of time, is transition the club away from myself and back to the supporters, but at a place where the club is sustainable and at a level where it's not going to go back down. I don't want to see all the hard work happen.
Because that does happen. You've seen some fan buyouts and supported buyouts where it just hasn't been able to work and they end up back in the situation.
Yeah, so it's all about revenue drivers, right? So how can you build something sustainably? So the development of the stadium is one of them. The importance of an AstroTurf. I know it's not so popular with all of the supporters, but we spend thousands of pounds a year having to send the first team and the community teams and the academy teams out to train at other AstroTurfs, so that there's a big drain there. Then during the winter months, we're not able to play at home all the time, so again, there's a financial drain there. So it's not just about, extra money that the club can gain from renting these facilities out. It's also about money saved by not kind of paying money outwards. And then kind of building it out from there, really. You don't need to have, you're not an English team. You don't need to have millions of pounds to be a sustainable team. But it's about how much of our support is required over how long a period of time to make it so it is sustainable. We're not kind of like flash in the pan here for a few seasons. We've shown commitment, and again this season we've agreed, along with my co-owner, we've agreed another level of funding, the majority of which goes into the infrastructure as well. So that's where a lot of these projects at this level, they get kind of misconstrued. It's an ego play for an owner. How good of a team can we have? Whereas actually the biggest spend for us is being the stadium, the infrastructure, making it a nice place for people to come, because you want to try to keep those attendances high or as consistent as possible through the winter months. And like previously, I was involved at Brackley Town in the National League, and seeing what they done and how they built that club and how they done it in a sustainable manner is kind of what we want to do here. Yeah.
And Murdo, would you recognise a lot of what we're talking about in terms of that performance on the pitch and be able to, I suppose, do that in talking about incremental gains, doing that in a sort of sustainable way? But I mean, would you recognise the victory in the Scottish Cup's a bit of a springboard in terms of where you go next?
Absolutely. For the minute I've come into the club, the owners and the people at the club have been very clear about, wanting to make the club sustainable, developing their own young players as well. We've got a really good 20s group, good staff there as well. We only last night, we had 2 or 3 players for our 20s group playing in the first team, which was fantastic to see. they're always developing, and obviously winning the junior cups a springboard. You know, it makes it really attractive for people to want to come and play and also come and watch. You know, which is really really important. From my time at the club, I've obviously seen the crowds gradually grow, and you know, last season there was really really healthy support. You know, throughout all the games, and obviously you've seen the support at the cup final, and afterwards it was, you know, breathtaking. So you know, it's something we want to continue to develop, continue to grow, and success on the pitch is part of that.
Yeah,
that's for sure. But
I think just that desire for people to, because I think football has become inaccessible for lots of people, and we've talked about it there about, you know, other clubs and sort of English. I mean, if you look at the English, you know, Premiership and those sorts of issues, but you know, I think good quality football where people can actually just, you know, people who love the game and want to just encounter it, even if they're not diehard Johnstone Burgh fans. You know, I think there's junior football is a particularly good place for that to happen. I mean, I know lots of guys locally into Barhead or Neilston who go to different games and just want to enjoy that sort of Saturday, Sunday afternoon experience. I mean, do you find that as well, Murdo? It's about the quality of what's happening on the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, the supporters support at the level of the game, and they have done for years. You know, they don't go to senior football. Their team is Johnstone Burgh. Their team is, you know, whoever, Arthur Lee, whoever it is, and they go there religiously and they watch that team. And if their team's not playing, you know, due to weather or due to whatever else, they'll have a look and they'll pick a game they fancy and they'll go and they'll see that. And often you hear about the value for money, you know, and what they're seeing. You know, they're able to take the kids along. It's not costing them a fortune, and it makes it really attractive, you know, and that's important for our level of the game. Yeah,
and I suppose that community aspect, Jackie, because it is about the community and about it being accessible for everyone. And you know, I mean, I've got pals whose teenage kids will go up to Kerry on their own, and it's a little bit of freedom for them. They're getting to go, they're getting to spend their cash, getting whatever they have to eat or whatever, and just enjoying time with their pals. And there's a sort of safe space, I think you mentioned that, Jack, you know, where you know, kids can enjoy it. So I mean, do you find that's something you want to try and grow as well?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, the main club, obviously the kids get in for free, so it is accessible for them. Obviously it doesn't cost a fortune for them to go. They can take some pocket money, buy some sweets and things like that, but we do tend to find that a lot of the kids that play for the community club do go along on the Saturdays to the games, and they create such a great atmosphere in the club. They're just so enthusiastic, and it does kind of create, obviously there is that pathway there, and it shows them what they could achieve, obviously, if they're playing through the different age groups and they end up, so it gives them those kind of hopes and dreams that they can obviously achieve that. So.
Absolutely. And I think just the joy of it, you know, sometimes we lose that, don't we? And it's the joy of football and the community that comes together around about it, and there's no feeling like that, you know, and particularly when you win something like the Scottish Cup, you know, it just gives you such a lift. So that's really interesting and really exciting, I think, in terms of where we go next. And Jack, I suppose it's interesting because, you know, we've just chatted about your story as to how you came to ownership, but obviously you're a businessman, and you've been involved in a kind of variety of opportunities around that. Do you want to just say a bit about what you do, if that's okay, and kind of how you came to...
So my background is all around healthcare. So I worked in medical recruitment. Kind of pre-COVID times, I noticed there was a change in the way in which there was more kind of private companies doing NHS contracts. So I launched a business called KPI Health, still trading now, still doing very well. Basically, we would treat patients on behalf of the NHS, but we would do that at a discount. So if a hospital might charge £200 for an operation, we would charge £160 for the same operation. So represented a cost save for the government, essentially. Everything that I kind of believe in from a business standpoint is that business should be used for good. It's not just about how much money you can make. So if you provide a service which is good value for money, naturally the clients will come to you, and then you have to have a problem which you're addressing. So at the moment, my latest venture, which obviously sponsors the club as well, is Flexo. So that's essentially an AI staffing platform for hospitals and schools. So hospitals, particularly in Scotland, these agencies, staffing agencies, they make really excessive fees on the doctors and nurses that they place. So what we aim to do as a business is by essentially using AI to eliminate as much of the humans from the recruitment chain as possible. You can go from offering recruitment as a really expensive service to a relatively cost-effective one. So about 1/10 of the cost of a normal doctor or nurse we can supply them at. So that's everything, kind of a bit of background as to my business. And schools face the same problem. In schools it's about 40% margin. So if a teacher's in there on a day on £150 a day, the agency's taking 40% of that income, or sometimes charging 40% on top. So my idea behind my latest venture is how much of that money can we retain in the systems for books or MRI machines, and it's something that I'm very, very passionate about. Like, we spend the second most amount on healthcare in the world per patient, yet only Hungary has less MRI machines per person than the United Kingdom. So there's something a little bit amiss here. So from my background is how can I address little problems that they add up and they can make a big difference over time, and that's what I do.
Okay, no, really interesting, and I guess helpful for listeners who maybe didn't know what you were doing in the other part of your life, because obviously football and Johnstone, but as a massive part of your life, but that's really interesting. Do you know, all of this I think is about leadership as well, and as a politician, obviously, you know, we live in a world where sometimes we don't have the best across all levels, you know, leadership. So I suppose, Murdo, what makes a good leader? You know, what makes a good manager? How do you motivate the team? You know, what are the sorts of things that you employ?
You know, I think you need to listen. I think you need to be able to listen and communicate well. You know, from my own perspective, my own style of leadership is going in and you know, servant leadership. You know, what can I do to make them better? You know, what can I do to help them? What can I do to motivate them, to help them progress, help them be better at what they do? You know, and that's my main goal. Every session, every game, the staff are the same. You know, I've got really hard-working staff at the club who have done a fantastic job, a brilliant job. I've been very fortunate in my career to have it to work with a lot of really good staff in my time, and everybody has their own qualities as well. So you know, the kind of footballing, you know, aspect it, and it's not just about me. It's about bringing people who are really skilled in certain areas and bringing them in. Round about to work as a team and work together, you know. So
and I mean, I think that's listening is, you know, such a key skill. You know, we've got 2 years in one mouth for a reason. It's really interesting that you say that. And I mean, is that different, do you think, from some of the styles we hear about? You know, obviously, famously, Alex Ferguson, you know, the old hairdryer treatment. Are we kind of try to move away from that and be a bit more constructive, or does sometimes we slip into that? You know, we all do it, don't we? So
no, I've still got that. I've still got that.
When someone's at it.
No, it's something, you know, I've read a lot about leadership, and even my job as a teacher, and I have read a lot of stuff. So Alex Ferguson and stuff like that, and he speaks a lot about, you know, listening, and particularly in his book about leadership. He speaks a lot about that and the importance of it. And I think it's vital. I think it's a key, you know, characteristic for any good leader, you know, to be able to listen, be able to take on board the information that people are giving them, particularly for people round about them. You know, that they're there to work, and you have to have an element of flexibility about you as well, and be prepared to understand that you're not always right. You know, I think that's key. I think when you start to bring ego into it like that, I think it's a dangerous play. You know, so no, I've got lots of good people around about me that I rely upon and I trust, and they've done a brilliant job so far. And obviously we've got great people, great backing, great support at the club. You know, with kind of volunteers, committee members, ownership. You know, been outstanding. You know, since I've been at the club, and they have been before my time there. You know, so we're in a really good place.
Good. No, that's great, and you know, lots of lessons in there for politics and politicians. You know, I think you're totally right when it becomes about a person rather than about a community. That's where it really starts to break down. And you know, I can be as guilty as anyone of not always getting it right. But you know, I think the more we listen and the more we engage, and that's what this podcast is all about, then I think, you know, that's really, really, really helpful as well. So yeah, what I like to do is just get a sense from people about the town as well, and the community, and you know, obviously over and above what you do with the club, like what do you love about, you know, Johnstone? What do you love about the community, what's inspired you, I suppose. So Jack, you've obviously, kind of grown up in a part, by visiting your grandparents and stuff like that. So, what's Johnstone for you,
I just have great memories as a kid. So every summer, coming up and spending time with my granny and my papa, messing around in the woods, playing in the burn, kicking a football behind Kearney, jumping the wall into Kearney as a kid. I used to do that quite a few times.
Is that allowed? So we do need to disclaimer that and say don't do it.
They're not allowed to do that now. They're not allowed to do that now. But yeah, no, just good memories as a kid, and like it's been even now, like before the games. I'll just go off on my own and just walk through the woods and just remember like I used to do that with my dad and my papa and things, and I can't remember the name of the burn. Is it the Brandy Burn or something is it called? I can't remember the name of it particular, but yeah, used to go up there and just sit there and think about like my childhood memories. So that's what it means to me, is kind of good memories as a kid, spending my summers up here. So
kind of running wild.
Basically, mate, yeah. You give me a football as a kid and just let me loose, and I'd have a good time. So yeah, that's what it means for me.
Excellent. What about you guys? What's kind of Johnstone in the town?
Yeah, it's listen, it's a really special club. I've been fortunate to work at a lot of big clubs and be involved in a lot of big games and stuff like that. But it's a club I've really kind of fallen in love with, and I think the biggest thing about the club and the town's the people. The people are phenomenal. Back to the cup final day, I remember a couple of the older supporters telling us they didn't actually go to the cup final. They spent it at the local pubs, and they're telling me the places were packed, they couldn't get in, and and when we won, the kind of jubilation spilt into the streets, and it's the people, it's a really, really special place, it is.
Absolutely. And what about you, Jackie, in terms of maybe the younger crowd as well again, and just what does it mean?
Yeah, Johnstone for me is home. Grew up there, went to school there. My family also lived there, so it's honestly got such a great community. Everybody rallies around each other. It's just absolutely fantastic, and obviously the work that we're all doing now, we're hoping to continue that and pass it on to the next generation, and hopefully they continue and grow it and make it a great place. Totally.
And I get to engage with lots of different groups across the town, and Johnstone's like any town in the West. It's had its hard times, it's had great times, it's resilient, and the people make it. I think Murdo's totally right. I was up at Johnstone Castle Learning Centre. Their youth club up there is just brilliant. It's it's a really simple concept, but the kids have got somewhere to go. They've got role models to aspire to. Community police are in there talking to them. The Cup was up there. There's a lot going on in the town that we don't always see, and it doesn't take a huge amount of funding sometimes, but they sometimes struggle, and we need to think about how do we support all of those sort of networks of different groups, just to keep the whole town going, as you say, and build for the next kind of success, which this is definitely part of it. And there's lots of reasons to be proud of Johnstone, and obviously the achievement that Johnstone Burgh have made is massive, and really at the heart of that as well. So I suppose we've got kind of a couple of minutes left, and we're just thinking about what's next. I know that's a big question, but what's the aspiration? What's the dream? I mean, we've been very sort of measured, talking about we want to be incremental, and I think that's totally right. But Murdo, from a football point of view, what do you want to see next season? Where do you want to go?
So we're already back training and preparing for next season. So obviously the dream is to go and kind of win the league, and as Jack mentioned earlier, start to progress up through the pyramid into the Lowland League and beyond into hopefully the SPFL one day. But one step at a time. So we'll prepare well. Hopefully we'll have a great league campaign. We'll go out to try and be successful in the league championship, and hopefully go and try and defend our trophy that's sitting there as well.
Fantastic.
There's some competitions we'll hopefully go deeper into this year, and we'll progress hopefully as a football team and as a club up the pyramid.
So it's non-stop for you. So despite having summer holidays from your day job, you're full on.
That's my part-time job.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I know. Yeah. This is a passion project.
Yeah. It comes with the nature of the job. It's a really, really busy job. your time's not your own, but I think if you're lazy at the job, you won't be successful. And like you say, we want to continue to progress. I'm really passionate about the club and want the club to do well and to progress for everyone, you know, the town, the people at the club. So spend a lot of time doing it, and you know, and I love doing it.
Great. Jack, what's the dream for next season?
If we can win the league, that'd be amazing. But for me, it's more a case of I want to see more kids involved, more girls involved, more kind of. It's kind of ties in with Jackie, but like I'm a dad of 3 little girls. My oldest is obsessed with Ronaldo, so you know, I want to. How many extra community teams can we get going from especially from the girls' perspective? That would be really interesting.
And do you think the Women's Euros, I mean, being obviously, you know, a big moment, and I think there's always an uptick when you see women playing at that elite level, and actually the BBC now, for example, making that a mainstream of broadcasting?
Yeah, for sure. Like for my own daughter, the obsession with football begun, you know, where, you know, we as a family, we support Scotland and England, unless Scotland are playing England, and then my dad enforces that we have to support Scotland. But like, kind of,
I've got that issue with Ireland as well, or Northern Ireland, depending, because we've got all 3.
So we could have both until they play each other, and then we weren't allowed to have a choice in that matter anymore. But no, like when England got to the Euros, you know, it was like her and all the girls in her class were become obsessed with football. So I really want to see kind of that translate this success leading to more community teams. Obviously, we have the aspiration of winning the league and defending the trophy, and longer term, we want to see these player pathways that kind of like Jackie's put in place from the community aspect translate into players for the first team, and then that ties in with sustainability, because, you know, I talk about Brackley Town I was involved in. They developed one player, Christian Pulisic, and, you know, that player goes off to Dortmund and that funds the club for 10 years. So, you know, you need to create 1 or 2 stars in a decade, and, you know, the club is sustainable, so providing that pathway for them. But yeah, it's exciting times from the work that these guys do. I mean, I obviously see the results from afar, but it's credit to everyone, the committee, Murdo, Jackie, Vic, Brian, Scott, everything that those guys do on a day-to-day. Like, I can't take any credit for it, because they're the people who actually do all the work and the planning, and kudos to those guys.
Great. And Jackie, a busy time ahead for you then in terms of all of the work that you do. You were telling me that you've got a number of roles within the club, so it never stops. Yeah,
so looking forward to the future, so we've currently got over 300 children at the moment playing in the community clubs, and over 60 volunteers, and we're looking to grow that. Obviously, with the help of Jack and Scott giving us the lease, we're looking to get the Astro pitch put in so that our kids can actually train in Johnstone, because currently at the moment we're travelling between like Ayrshire and Glasgow and stuff. So that would help, and then we can get those teams to grow. We're currently trying to add a 2022's team at the moment, and we've just started a women's team. So now that they're up and running, we'll start looking at the pathway for the girls into the women's team. So yeah, it's honestly, it's so busy just now, lots of work going ahead, but obviously we've got a great team, we've got a great committee, everybody's quite hands-on and very supportive. So yeah, watch this space, lots of work going ahead.
Fantastic, that's great. And if anyone's listening who wants to get more involved with the club, you know, what's the best way, of course, is to rock up to Keene and to support the club at the weekends. Young people as well, that was, you know, a good point, that you can get involved with the teams and get in touch. But is there any other ways that you're looking for support at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, it's over to these guys on a day-to-day.
Yeah,
do you need more volunteers? Coaches, is that always?
Coaches,
always looking for coaches, always looking for volunteers. Anybody that wants to get in touch, they can contact us through the website. And
one of the things that me and Scott have spoken about as well is we're happy to help coaches progress through their coaching badges. Good. So, you know, the club will offer them support. You know, you start at level 1, level 2, and if they show a willing and a need, as you go from a UEFA C, there's a lot of work to make that jump to UEFA B now, right? But like we want that level of coaching to be, particularly for the older age groups, we want them to have that standard all the way through kind of the club as a minimum. So we're prepared. If there is any kind of aspiring coaches out there, we're prepared to support financially and help them. And obviously Murdo can help nurture them from a coaching perspective as well. So
And it's a really rewarding thing to do, Murdo, isn't it, to coach at any level?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's initially I remember being a young coach myself, and it's time. It's what you give initially into it, and that's a really important time in your coaching career. You know, that those early stages. You know, when you go and you give that time and you work with the kids and help them develop to kind of meet their dreams and stuff, and you know you can be a big influence. You know, on people. So getting as many coaches and volunteers into the club as we can to give their time and to help these kids kind of develop and nurture them would be fantastic.
Superb. Well, listen, thank you so much for your time today. It was really great to catch up with the three of you. And as I always say at the end of the podcast, if you've got something that's going on in Johnstone or in the community you live in, something that's interesting, give us a shout and we can get you on an episode of the podcast. I hope to catch up with you guys again maybe next year, and hopefully more silverware will be on the table, and we'll be having a conversation about what's next and the aspirations. I don't know, maybe Europe eventually, who knows, who can say. But at the moment, just to say the whole town is so proud of what you've achieved. Was delighted to have you all through Parliament to recognise that. And, more power to you to keep the community side going and keep a fantastic club going and keep the town on the up. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us on.